I stood just inside the entrance of the restaurant, letting the glass door close softly behind me, as if I were afraid of making too much noise. The place was alive, waiters weaving between tables, dishes clinking, voices rising in laughter, but none of that warmth reached me. This restaurant carried my sister's name in bold letters above the door. Yet standing there, I felt like a stranger who had wandered in by mistake. I hadn't come to eat. I hadn't even come to argue. I just wanted to see her, to speak to my sister as family, not as an enemy. Lara was near the center of the room, dressed sharply, her confidence glowing brighter than the polished lights above. She was surrounded by business partners and regular customers, smiling widely, telling stories about how hard it was to build everything from nothing. Each word landed heavily on me. I remembered those early days. She conveniently erased the nights we stayed up planning, the money I risked when no one believed in her. But I stayed silent, standing by the wall, waiting for the right moment. When she finally noticed me, her smile faded into a tight, uncomfortable line. Instead of walking over, she leaned closer to her group and said loudly, "Some people never learn to move forward. They just hang around places they don't belong." A few people glanced in my direction. My face burned, but I told myself she didn't mean it personally. I was wrong. I stepped toward her and quietly said, "Lara, can we talk for a minute?" She looked at me as if I'd insulted her. "I'm busy," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut through the noise. Then she added, louder this time, "You shouldn't be here." The room seemed to pause. Conversation softened. Eyes followed us. Before I could explain, she waved her hand toward the entrance. "Security," she said coldly. Two men appeared almost instantly. One of them asked me to leave. I tried to speak, but my sister turned away, already laughing again, as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience. Customers stared. Some whispered. Others looked away, pretending not to see. As the guards escorted me outside, humiliation settled deep in my chest. The door closed behind me and the noise of the restaurant faded, replaced by the dull sound of traffic and my own heavy breathing. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, staring at the glowing sign above me. This place wasn't just her success, it was a piece of my past. My sacrifice, my trust. That night, as I walked away, I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Being thrown out didn't break me. It reminded me of who I was before I was silenced. And as painful as that moment was, it planted a quiet determination inside me, one that would soon change everything.
Long before the restaurant became a symbol of my sister's success, it existed only as a fragile idea passed between us in late-night conversations. Back then, Lara wasn't confident or admired. She was anxious, unsure, and constantly afraid of failing. I was the one who listened when she doubted herself, the one who told her the dream was possible even when reality said otherwise. On scraps of paper and stained notebooks, we planned menus, budgets, and names, believing that hard work and family loyalty would be enough. When the banks rejected her loan applications, it was my savings that kept the dream alive. I didn't hesitate. I emptied accounts meant for my future because I believed in her. I worked alongside her during the construction, cleaning floors, painting walls, and negotiating with suppliers. At night, after my own job, I trained staff and managed early operations. I wasn't looking for recognition. Seeing my sister succeed felt like success enough. The shift happened quietly, almost invisibly. As the restaurant grew popular, Lara grew distant. She started attending meetings without me, signing documents I never saw. Whenever I asked about my role, she reassured me. "It's just temporary," she'd say. "You know I'd never cut you out." I wanted to believe her, because believing her meant believing in family. Then came the day I realized my name wasn't on anything that mattered. The lease, the ownership papers, the bank accounts, all carried only her signature. When I confronted her, she laughed it off, calling me dramatic. "Why do you care about paperwork?" She said, "We're sisters. This is ours." But something in her tone had changed. It wasn't warmth anymore. It was control. I stayed longer than I should have. I kept working, kept hoping she'd make things right. Instead, she slowly pushed me out, reducing my responsibilities, excluding me from decisions, and eventually treating me like hired help. The final break came when she told me, calmly and without apology, that my help was no longer needed. No compensation, no acknowledgement, just an unspoken message. I was replaceable. Walking away was one of the hardest choices I ever made. I felt betrayed, foolish, and deeply ashamed for trusting too easily, but I chose silence over confrontation. I rebuilt my life from the ground up, learning to invest carefully, to protect myself, and to succeed quietly. I never spoke badly of her. I never asked for credit. I carried the truth alone. Years later, standing outside her restaurant after being thrown out, all those memories returned with painful clarity. That humiliation wasn't a single moment. It was the result of years of erased effort and forgotten loyalty. Yet instead of reopening old wounds, it strengthened something inside me. The past no longer owned me. It had prepared me, and the dream that once belonged to both of us was about to come. Full circle in a way neither of us could have imagined. 2 weeks after my sister had me thrown out of the restaurant, I found myself sitting in a quiet office far removed from the noise and humiliation of that night. The room belonged to the building's landlord, a man who had seen countless businesses rise and fall within those walls. Sunlight filtered through the blinds as he flipped through financial reports, spread across his desk. The numbers told a story very different from the image Lara projected to the world. Despite the packed tables and polished image, the restaurant was bleeding money. Rent payments were late, vendor invoices stacked up unanswered. Loans taken to fund an extravagant lifestyle had slowly suffocated the business. The landlord sighed heavily and admitted that Lara had missed several deadlines. "She's desperate," he said, "but pride won't let her admit it." I listened carefully, my face calm, even as every detail confirmed what I had quietly suspected. This wasn't a meeting driven by revenge. I hadn't come to punish my sister or reclaim the past. I had come because opportunity rarely announces itself. It waits for the prepared. Over the years after leaving, I had built stability through careful investments and patience. I learned when to walk away and when to lean in. This moment, as uncomfortable as it felt, was one I understood. The landlord finally slid a folder toward me. Inside was the proposed sale agreement. The price was clear, $2 million. It was fair, reflecting both the restaurant's reputation and its hidden debt. He watched my reaction closely, perhaps expecting hesitation or surprise. Instead, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The same place that once took everything from me was now offering me control, not emotionally, but professionally. "I'll buy it," I said simply. The landlord raised his eyebrows. "You know the owner won't like who the buyer is," he warned. I nodded. "She doesn't need to know yet." I signed the preliminary offer without fanfare, my hands steady. There was no sense of victory, only clarity. I wasn't reclaiming what was lost. I was creating something new from what remained. As I left the office, the weight of the decision settled in. $2 million wasn't just a number, it was years of discipline, sacrifice, and restraint. I thought about the night I'd been escorted out. The way Lara had turned her back on me, the assumptions she had made about who I was. She saw weakness where there had only been patience. The deal moved quickly. Paperwork passed between lawyers, inspections were scheduled, and approvals finalized. Through it all, my name remained hidden, just as hers once had been hidden from me in those early documents. There was a quiet symmetry in that. When the final confirmation arrived, I sat alone and read it twice. The restaurant was officially mine. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. The next step wouldn't be easy, but it would be honest. The morning I returned to the restaurant, the city felt unusually quiet, as if it sensed what was about to happen. I stood across the street for a moment, watching employees unlock the doors and prepare for another busy day. Nothing looked different from the outside. The same sign hung above the entrance, the same confident image my sister had built. Yet everything had already changed. Ownership doesn't announce itself with noise, it waits. I walked in calmly, dressed simply, not wanting to draw attention. A few staff members recognized me immediately. Their expressions shifted from surprise to confusion. Whispers traveled faster than footsteps. Someone asked softly, "Why is she here?" Before anyone could stop me, Lara appeared from her office, irritation already written across her face. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "I told you not to come back." The room fell silent. I didn't argue. I reached into my bag and placed a slim folder on the counter. "I'm here for business," I said quietly. That only made her angrier. She pushed the folder back toward me. "You have no business here." I opened it and slid the documents toward her again, this time turning them so she could read the names. Her eyes scanned the page once, then again, slower. Her expression changed, the confidence drained from her face replaced by disbelief. "This isn't funny," she whispered. "What kind of game is this?" "It's not a game," I replied, my voice steady. "The sale closed this morning. I'm the new owner." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Staff members froze. One of the managers stepped back as if the floor had shifted beneath him. Lara's hands began to tremble as she flipped through the pages, desperately searching for a mistake that wasn't there. "No," she said, shaking her head. "This can't be real." For the first time, she looked at me, not with arrogance or dismissal, but fear. In that moment, every assumption she had made about me collapsed. The sister she thought she had outgrown now stood in front of her, with proof she couldn't deny. I felt no satisfaction in her shock. There was no triumph in watching her world tilt. Instead, I felt a quiet sadness for how far we had drifted. "I'm not here to embarrass you," I said. "I'm here to move forward." The restaurant buzzed back to life slowly, but nothing was the same. Lara stepped away from the counter, tears gathering in her eyes as the reality settled in. Her power, built on control and appearance, had vanished in a single moment. Mine had grown without spectacle, without cruelty. As I looked around the room, I realized the reveal wasn't about revenge or justice. It was about truth finally stepping into the light, and from that moment on, every decision made within those walls would carry a different weight, one rooted not in pride, but in accountability. The restaurant felt different after the reveal, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Lara stood near the counter, her shoulders slumped, no longer the confident owner who once commanded the room. Employees avoided her eyes, unsure where loyalty now belonged. I watched quietly, understanding that power shifts are never loud. They are heavy, uncomfortable, and deeply personal. Lara finally looked up at me, her voice breaking. "So what happens now?" she asked. There was fear in her eyes, but also something else, regret. She expected punishment, termination, public humiliation, just as she had done to me. Everyone did. That would have been the easy choice. I could have removed her instantly and justified it with paperwork and authority. No one would have questioned it, but I hadn't bought the restaurant to take revenge. "I'm not here to destroy you," I said calmly. "I'm here to fix what's broken." I told her the truth she had avoided for years, that the restaurant needed structure, humility, and respect for the people who kept it alive. I explained that her leadership had become reckless, driven by image rather than responsibility. Each word landed carefully, not as an attack, but as accountability. Then I gave her a choice. She could walk away with dignity, free to start over elsewhere, or she could stay not as an owner, not as a ruler, but as a manager, earning trust instead of demanding it. Respect wouldn't come from her name anymore. It would come from her actions. The room was silent. Every employee listened, knowing this decision would shape all of their futures too. Tears streamed down Lara's face. "I didn't think you were capable of this," she whispered. I met her eyes. "You never really looked," I replied. That wasn't anger, it was truth. For years she had mistaken my silence for weakness, my patience for failure. Now she understood the cost of that mistake. She nodded slowly. "I want to stay," she said. "If you'll let me." It wasn't pride speaking anymore. It was humility. I agreed, but with clear boundaries, financial transparency, shared responsibility, no favoritism. The restaurant would succeed on merit alone. The tension in the room eased. Staff exhaled. Some smiled, others wiped away quiet tears. For the first time in a long while, the restaurant felt honest. Later that evening, as I walked through the dining area alone, I realized something important. Winning isn't about standing above someone who hurt you. It's about standing firm without becoming like them. I had been thrown out once, stripped of voice and value. Now I had returned, not to take, but to lead. The restaurant didn't just get a new owner that day. It got a second chance. And so did our family, but only if we were both brave enough to earn it.